So welcome back to the Champ.ie Podcast, the second episode, lads, of the season, where we're going to be previewing Down Royal Festival, of course, the Charity Hall chase at Weatherby. We'll also look at Ascot as well. We hope you enjoyed last week, by the way. We did. Keith Donoghue is our special guest on the show this week, but I'm joined by the regulars, Mr. Mike Vince, of course, from SIS, commentator, Thomas Coyle, trainer from Batterstown, County Meath, who's fresh from his third place up at Dundalk yesterday, Royal Marksman, well named, and Ronan Groome. What good is the wedding, as Mike Vince says, without the groom? We're going to look at Down Royal, and we're going to start on Friday's card. The 150, lads, at Down Royal, of course, is the WKD Grade 2 Hurdle. Thomas, I suppose you're Abacadabras's biggest fan last year, and you also mentioned on the season preview last week that you think that Aspire Tower could maybe develop up into a champion hurdle type horse, or at least compete at that level this year. I suppose, look, if he gets the €4 allowance here, can he trouble Abacadabras?
No, I think Abacadabras is going to win, to be honest. But I think Aspire Tower, as the year goes on, he might get more into it. I just think with the form of Gordon's horses over maybe Henry's a little bit, I think Abacadabras is going to be hard bet tomorrow. Henry has Jason the Militant in it as well, which has the same rating as Aspire Tower, but I could imagine Aspire Tower would be number one with Rachel riding it. But no, I think it should be straightforward. The ground should be to suit, and hopefully it'll be step one to a tilt at a champion hurdle for Abacadabras.
Interesting. We'll hear Keith's thoughts on Abacadabras coming up. Just a show of betting, lads, just for this one tomorrow, which is 4-6 Abacadabras, Aspire Tower 10-3. Jason the Militant there, who was an impressive winner, actually had an ace on his last start. He has had a run on the flat as well. 9-2, 6-shooter. Ronan Groome, you had him on the brain last year. He was your horse to follow. He was impressive the last day. He got up 12 pounds. He probably has enough on his plate here, does he?
Yeah, I actually think he has a chance, Barry. Abacadabras is obviously the horse to beat, and he is the champion hurdle contender here out of all of them. But I don't know why 6-shooter is such a big price compared to the likes of Aspire Tower and Jason the Militant. I was on a press Zoom call with Noel Mead during the week. I think Mike was on it as well, and Noel gave 6-shooter, and he loves the horse. Like, that's what the reason why I kind of liked him last season. I was talking to Noel, and he had huge hopes from. And he just said the horse is a big kind of baby and needs to mature a bit. But there was definitely signs of that the last day when he won at Punchestown. He beat a horse called Kilfanora, who was a very good horse last season. Is 150 plus rated horse, and he gave him £6 and a beating over 2 miles and 2 furlongs. He has race fitness on side. I don't like the juvenile hurdlers from last year coming up, like the likes of Aspire Tower. I think we made that known on the podcast last kind of season, and like even that form has took a pretty bad beating so far, with All Mankind getting beaten there at Cheltenham last week. Jason the Militant is an interesting one, but I just don't see why he's shorter than 6-shooter. Quite good form last time out. Like, obviously Abacadabras is the one to beat. Maybe you can do without the bet, without the favourite market. Obviously it's 7 runners, so it's not great for each way. But I definitely at around. I'm not surprised at all. There's a bit of money for a 6-shooter there this morning. He's into around 8-1 in some places now, and I still think that's not a bad price at all.
Mike, I suppose 4-6 now Abacadabras. If you were going to have a bet in the race, personally, I could see him going off much shorter. I think the money could come for Abacadabras. I mean, do you think he's a backable price? I wouldn't be one usually to be backing horses at odds on, but I still think he could get shorter in the market.
I'm in the forecast here. I think this has got a Jiggins Town forecast written all over it. Abacadabras to win. And Ronan's been nicking my notes by the sound of it, because I sing from the same hymn sheet about 6-shooter. I can't have Aspire Tower. Yes, he was second in the Triumph, but remember what happened in the Triumph. They were a load of very ordinary horses, and it was only because Goshen did what Goshen did at the last that they weren't being rounded up halfway around Gloucestershire in the aftermath of it. They were so far behind. So for me, if I were having a go here, I'd go Abacadabras to win and 6 shooter for the straight forecast.
Brilliant. Well, Keith Donoghue might give us a little bit more insight. We caught up with Keith to speak all things Colantra, and of course he has that relationship with Envoi Allen. We'll talk about a couple of horses for Gordon coming up this weekend, and obviously for the rest of the season. Let's have a listen to Keith. So as we look ahead to the Down Royal Festival, of course, a meeting where Gordon Elliott announces himself every season, I suppose, every year. And we're joined on the Champ.ie Podcast once again by Keith Donoghue to discuss all things Colantra. And Keith, 6 winners in the last 14 days, and you're riding way to spot on at the minute. Could you ask for, I suppose, a better lead into the week?
No, it's an exciting week. Obviously, it's a big week for Gordon. Everyone knows where Gordon the aim, the horses to start off is Down Royal, some of the better horses. So it's a big week for the yard. Obviously, I didn't get a leg across many of them on Friday. The better ones, but I still have a few rides, so it's good to be going up there with rides.
I wanted to start maybe by speaking about Abacadabras. He won first time out the last 2 seasons running. I suppose, how forward is he this time around? And in your opinion, would he be the closest thing to a champion hurdle type of horse that Gordon's had maybe in recent seasons?
He definitely is. He looks like he's a champion hurdle horse, but he has to obviously step up this year to another level. The open company, he's coming from Novice company. He won first time out the last 2 seasons, but that was in the bumper and a maiden hurdle. So it's a different story. Starting off in a grade 2 on Friday, again. Some horses like Six Shooter that has had the experience has had the run already this year, and then you have Henry the Bromhead, 2 horses who are 2 very good horses. So he's definitely going to have to be on his game to win on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think he can go to the very top, say this side of the sea anyway, and we'll see what happens closer to Cheltenham?
I think he can. He's probably one of the fastest horses that we have in the yard. Like, and he travels, but he's going to have to pick up on his jumping. His jumping can be a little bit sloppy at times, and to be a champion hurdle horse, he has to be quick. So if I had any doubt of him not being a champion hurdle horse, it'd be his jumping.
Okay, and coming on to Envoi Allen, of course, you schooled him, I think, on Tuesday, I believe. One thing I wanted to ask you, like, how does he feel? Does he attack his fences, Keith, or would you say he's more sort of tidy and efficient, and that sort of style would suit going forward for the likes of a Gold Cup maybe next year?
He just jumps the fence like a good horse jumps the fence. You know, that type of way, long or short, whatever way you want him. Whatever side he meets it on, it's easy to him. He just jumps the fence like he's the horse he is. You know, it's very easy for him.
And one thing I suppose I did notice was he wears a tongue strap, Keith, and that's applied for the first time. Has there ever been a concern with his wind, or what was the thoughts behind that?
No, I'm not actually really too sure. There's never been a concern with his wind, so it's probably just to help him a little bit. It can't do him any harm anyway.
And in terms of being campaigned this season, Gordon has obviously made it known, that 2.5 miles, the Marsh Chase is likely chase. Could you ever see him going up and trip this season at any stage?
Yeah, I don't see there'd be no reason why he couldn't go up and trip if he really had to. You know, like he's the type of horse I say he could go down and trip if he wanted as well. He's just a good horse that could run over any trip, but you don't want to run him in an RSA and a slog like that and leave the mark on him. Like, he's still growing, he's still a big horse, he's still at the fill of frame, you know. So like this year is still only another stepping stone towards being a Gold Cup horse.
Absolutely. Well, the best of luck with Envoi Allen for the season. Queensbrook started off a fairy house 2.5 weeks ago. Now, Gordon described her as looking like a broodmare after coming back in after the summer. And listen, you've worked with some classy mares down in Gordon's, Apples, Jade, Fiona. How do you think, I suppose, Queensbrook has progressed since Fairy House, saying? How good do you think she could be?
She's tightened up a lot since Fairy House. She's not flashy at home. She wouldn't, I'd say you won't see the best of her until she goes up and trips. So she's not the type of one that you can judge to see how good she is, but obviously she's done it on the track, and being third or fourth in the championship upper, like she's a very good mare in her own right, and she'll have a race on Friday, especially over 2 miles. there'll be a few there that have had runs and have fitness on it. Like, she's still not fully fit, so she'd have to be good to win on Friday, I think.
And when she won at Gordon last year, I know like it was, you know, on the softer side. I think it was heavy in the going description. Is that something that she needs, a small bit of cut in the ground, do you think, to be as effective?
I'd say not really, because I'd say the ground just made it more of a stamina test, and that's why she won so easy, because I'd say she just so when she goes up in the trip, you know, that's why you'll see the best of her. But I don't think the ground has to be soft.
Yeah, and Samcro enjoys it around the course down Royal. He's entered to start off the season here again on Saturday. Look, the Ryanair has been identified as a long-term target, Keith, and obviously winner at Cheltenham last year. But you mentioned in your blog, actually, I saw that you know, you think he'd be fine going up in trip as well. Would the King George be an option in your opinion?
Well, my opinion wouldn't mean much to where he goes, but in my opinion, yeah, something like the King George probably would suit him, because it's a flat track, he'd jump and travel, and it'd be nice ground. I think the good ground is the key to Samcro.
And he's in good shape ahead of the weekend.
He is in good shape, and he's ready to start off. But Easy Game is rated 160, same rating as Samcro, and he's been running during the summer, and he's a good win in Gordon last at beating the Storyteller. So Samcro will have to be 90% right on Saturday to beat him and him.
Has he still upheld the penthouse apartment in Cullentra?
He has, yeah. He's living out, but if you were to give me one to pick, Samcro or Envoi Allen, I know which one I'd be taking.
We'll have to build a penthouse for Envoi Allen now if he wins this weekend. The champion chase looks, I suppose, an open clash this year. Obviously your stable holds all the aces here. Delta Work presenting Percy, the Storyteller, who you won on recently, Keith. Do you think Delta Work maybe is more forward than he was last season, or maybe do you think the Storyteller, you know, race fitness could, you know, play to his advantage?
Yeah, well, I rode Delta Work in the race last year. The race wasn't run to suit. He went way too slow. He didn't jump great, and then he just sprinted down the straight. And I was just left flat forward. Delta Work needs an out-and-out gallop. He needs a good, strong gallop. I would say his work has been better this year. He's probably not a great workhorse at home, but I would say he's more forward. But then again, it cut him out the last 2 years. I know he won 2 years ago, but they haven't been great. It wasn't a great race. And he's known not running his best race first time out. So I think, in my opinion, if the Storyteller to win another grade one, I think it will be on Saturday.
Good stuff. So Ballyadam showed more than a glimpse, I suppose, of what he promised up the north when he won his bumper, Keith, by 18 lengths. That was before lockdown number 1. What type of horse do you think he is, and would he compare to Gordon's novice hurdlers maybe in years gone by?
Yeah, I would say probably not in years gone by. I'd say he's a faster horse than the likes of Envoi Allen and them. He's all speed. He's a smaller horse. He's a very quick jumper. And I'd say he could go. He could be one that could be taking stopping in the Supreme.
Well, that might answer Will Pugh's question. He tweeted in, with Fernie Hallows obviously owned by Cheveley Park. You know, would you see Ballyadam perhaps going down the same route as Envoi Allen? But do you think maybe he potentially has the speed to drop back and trip, or to start off at 2 and to maybe stay at 2?
I would imagine they'd be trying to keep Ballyadam at 2 mile yet. But he is a very laid back horse as well as being a quick horse, where if they had to go up and trip, he could. But I'd say he'd be able to call it 2 mile races.
And sticking with just questions from Twitter, Poddy Pacer asks, is Galvin the new Tiger Roll? And he also wants to know, where is the Gov being campaigned for Cheltenham?
There's only one Tiger Roll. I don't think any horse will ever be in. There's only will ever be another Tiger Roll. What he done is unbelievable, and I wouldn't mind if I did win 2 cross-country races in Galvin, but I don't think he's the next Tiger Roll.
And what about the Gov? Is he going to line up in the National Hunt Chase? Is he?
He'd be a little bit slow, and he doesn't like them fences. He ran his gate, so he'd have to just stick to the hunting this year.
Kieran Cunningham asks about Sir Gerhard. How nice is he? And is there any other bumper horses that you're looking forward to seeing out in the near future?
Yeah, well, obviously Sir Gerhard was bought with a big reputation. He cost plenty of money after winning the Point for Marie Holden. So, he's always going to have that hype about him until he goes and does it on the track or until he gets speed so people can knock him. But he looks very good at home, and he's really big as well. And I'd say he's a very exciting horse.
And is there any other, I suppose, bumper horses that you're looking forward to seeing coming out?
There's a few others there, like Coyle Games. Also, there's another young horse called Trevor-Gate. He's by Raymond Lowry. There's plenty there of the Magic Tricks got beat in Punchestown. He would have been one of the nicer ones. He probably improved from the run. I'd say Hollow Games after Sir Gerard is probably the next step.
Brilliant stuff. And Euro Darver Star, coming away from Gordon now, Euro Darver Star to Novice Chase Victory. The County Loud lads will be looking to know what sort of feel he gave you and how far do you think he can go over fences, this fella?
Yeah, I thought he gave me a brilliant feel. He's very laid back, but he jumped very well. In the middle part of the race was probably the best speed he gave me, and then when I turned in and I had race one, he just done enough up the straight, but I'd say there's plenty of options from whether he stays a 2 mile or goes up and trip. Obviously, if he goes up and trip, he has to run into Envoi Allen, so I'd be in the Envoi Allen camp if he was going up and trip, but I think 2 mile could be 2 mile could be the easier way to go with him, but he's a very good horse, and as he proved that, he's a brilliant horse for Gavin to have, and for the lads that own him and all, so it's a brilliant story.
Brilliant stuff. And for the Champ.ie listeners, Keith, I want to ask you for one dark horse to follow for the season.
Dark horse. Humdon Swat. He finished second in the maiden hurdle in Wexford the other day, but he's improved an awful lot from that, and he could turn up in a handicap somewhere now over Christmas or even Cheltenham, and he'd be one to keep an eye out for. He's Simon Manure horse.
And there was just one other horse I suppose I wanted to ask you about, and you did win on this horse, juvenile hurdler Xanaphir, who came from Michael Halford. What sort of feel did he give you, Keith? Because I know, and you did say, you've been doing obviously well with your weight at the moment. So was that a novelty, I suppose, to get up on a 3-year-old at this time of the year?
Yeah, well, I rode in 7 3-year-old hurdles this year, and I won 6 of them, so not going too bad in them ones. Obviously, I think Xanaphir has done it very well. He was 2-2 that day, and the ground was a little soft. I think he'd be better on a bit of nicer ground. He battled well to beat Willie's horse, who had plenty of experience on the flat. I know Meath horse fell at the second last and kind of left the 2-horse race, but I'd say it was probably a good race, and he'll still have to step up from that to, whether he goes to Fairy Houses from our next, but he looks an exciting horse.
And finally, I suppose it'd be rude not to mention Tiger Roll, because I know Jason Coyle, who's involved with the podcast, was having a bit of good banter with you in the lead up to the cross country last year, and look at 2 smashing cross country horses for this year. But how is the Tiger, I suppose, and have you any fight and talk for Jason Coyle, I suppose, ahead of maybe potential early encounter or early clash maybe at Cheltenham's Open meeting?
Yeah, I think he might be going in November, so obviously it's all ground dependent, and that's a handicap as well, so I don't know what way obviously he's a top weight, but he's probably fitter now than he was going to Cheltenham in March. It was well documented that he didn't have the best campaign last year, and he was rushed to get to Cheltenham, and then the ground turned up heavy, and he's got the same horse and heavy ground, but he was beat by a very good horse in the day. I'd say even on good ground last year, we probably wouldn't have beat the winner. He was very good with this preparation that we had with Tiger Roll. But if we could get a clear run with him all year and get him to Cheltenham in good form and a bit of good ground, we'd take him on anyway. We'd try to give them a scare anyway.
Them French lads with their French baguettes and their stripy t-shirts. Jason Coyle now would be delighted to hear that. Keith, listen, it was a pleasure speaking to you again. and delighted things are going well for you on and off the track. And look, at the very best luck for this week and the season ahead, and we'll be in touch at some stage throughout the year, I'm sure.
Thanks very much, Barry.
So brilliant to catch up with Keith ahead of the weekend. Envoi Allen is a horse, lads, that I suppose he has a relationship with, looks after at home, and he schooled him on Tuesday. Interesting to hear his thoughts there. But the one thing I suppose I did pick up on, and Thomas, I'm going to come to you, is the tongue strap is on first time. Now, I suppose last season I dug myself into a bit of a hole trying to take on Envoi Allen. I'm not going to do the same this year, but I did find it interesting that he is wearing a tongue strap first time. What would your thoughts be on that?
First of all, I think it's interesting you have a tongue tie on as well tonight. You're to wear lashes. Look, it's probably just one of those little things. Look, to me, it does no harm. I'd rather have it on than I'm thinking about putting it on and not using it. Look, they've said to everyone it's on. Look, I think tomorrow it's just a case of a nice school round for him. You're not going to get much better education. Down Royal's actually a lovely track and good big fences. They'll learn a lot. So look, it's a pity there's not too much in it to take him on, but it'll be with great interest to watch it now and see how he look, he has won a point, so it will be interesting to see him. But hopefully, look, touch wood, he gets around safe, and it'll be the start of a good campaign from him, you'd imagine.
And Mike, I want to ask you, because obviously he was all the rage from an Irish point of view going into Cheltenham last year. How far do you think this fella can go?
The top.
Simple as.
Yeah. And I think if the danger's in front of him tomorrow, not behind him. If he jumps to clear, he will win. And the only question is, how far will he win?
Champion Chase, lads. That was Envoi Allen. Champion Chase. It's the big feature, of course, on day 2, Saturday. Gordon Elliott has 3 of the first 4 in the betting. Tom, we'll come to you on this again because I know Pat Kelly, and you know the switch has been obviously well highlighted. What's your thoughts on the switch, and how do you think Present and Percy can go this year?
Look, I suppose every man has their choice of where they're putting their horses, but look, it's where it's good for Gordon, it's devastating for Pat to lose all them horses, and a few of them have clicked in already. I think he's another couple running later in the week, or I'm actually going to talk about one of them later on. But look, it's probably this is the hype horse that has gone across, so it's probably a lot of pressure on Gordon on Saturday because this is the one that he has moved. I think he could be a Gold Cup horse. Look, he was always in a Gold Cup frame. Can Gordon eke out maybe £10 improvement out of him? He's no better man if he is going to. If he does, he's a lively Gold Cup contender, and I actually think he'll win on Saturday. Delta Work last year was betting this race, so obviously might be that little bit of an issue. But look, Keith to school him. We've seen pictures of Keith schooling him and riding him. Look, I genuinely think he's going to win on Saturday because there's probably a bit of pressure on Gordon, and he's not going to run him unless he's going to be bang there. I do think Keith will have a good outside chance. His horse is fit. He won in Punchestown the last day. He bet Noel's horse 2A Perme. So he's got fitness on his side. But I just think maybe a little bit of class with Presenting Percy might get him across the line. Interesting booking ride as well. Dennis O'Regan. So it'll be interesting to see. Great, it's a good race, and it really whets the appetite for what could be a good few months ahead with the national hunt back in full swing. This is what we want, really.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you actually, Thomas. Just being a 9-year-old now, you know, I suppose he has ran reasonably well fresh as well. Delta Work was a bit rusty in it last year. Yeah, speaking of Keith was quite sweet on the storyteller though. He thought he'd run a big race. Ronan, did you thoughts?
Yeah, just expanding a bit on the Presenting Percy angle, because he's definitely the most interesting kind of story in the race and could be the big story of the season, really. I remember I was at a preview night there before Presenting Percy was in the RSA Chase that year, about 2 seasons ago, and Gordon was talking about him. Like, he loves the horse. Like, he loved him even when he was with Pat Kelly, and he said that year he'd win the RSA, and I'm pretty sure he said that if he ran in the Gold Cup that year, he would have won it. He was just adamant that the horse was the best chaser in Ireland. And it's just interesting now that he ends up with Gordon Elliott. He's only 9. He's only had 10 starts over fences. It seems like he's been around for a while because he's done so much, winning at the festival twice, and he's had his year last year. He's just obviously the most interesting angle going into the race, even from a story wise. And as Thomas says, I think he definitely can win. My choice in the race, just at the prices, is Chris's Dream. I think he's really interesting. He's a lot more scope to improve than Presenting Percy, because he's only had 8 starts over fences, and in his life he's only had 15 starts. I think the key to him, and Henry de Bromhead found this out last year, is freshness. Like, if you go back to his run last year when he came out, first time out, he bolted up in the Troytown. Really impressive that day. And then they laid off him. They didn't go to Christmas. I think he was due to go to the Irish Gold Cup, and the ground was the issue there. When they kept him off him, he had 83 days break, and he came out and won the PWC chase down at the Red Mills chase at Gorman Park. He beat Shattered Love, gave her a weight and beat her there. And I think he was running a big race in the Gold Cup, which probably wouldn't have been run to suit on kind of fast going and slow pace. And he was bang there, turning for home. And you have to remember that there was only less than 4 weeks in between his going run and Cheltenham. So if you take the line that he needs a bit of time between his races, I thought he actually ran quite well. I think everything about him this year, as Henry Bromhead said, that it's all about this Darren Royal race from the Ladbrokes Champion Chase. Even when Robbie Power was going over to Britain, he mentioned that this is the next time he'll be back in Ireland, because obviously he can't travel between the two countries. So it's obviously been in their plan a lot. And coming off the break, this is probably going to be his Gold Cup. I just like him against Delta Work, who's had 2 starts. He started the season at Down Royal for the last 2 seasons and been really kind of laboured. He won his beginner's chase there. He only scrambled home 2 seasons ago, and last season he was well beaten in this race. He's probably going to be the best horse going forward out of these, but he's definitely worth taking on first time out. So Chris's Dream for me, I think he's around 7-2. I think that's a fair enough price.
Yeah, Ronan, we're doing this backwards. I didn't give you a show prices. 7-4 Delta Work, Presenting Percy 9-4, Chris's Dream 3-1, The Storyteller 6-1, 2A Per Me 12, Snow Falcon 25 and 33-1. The rest, and of course we've 2 votes for Presenting Percy, 1 for Chris's Dream. Is Mike Vince going to spice it up a little?
Well, I think I might. And to the extent that Ronan mentioned, he and I had to listen to the wise words of the master of 2 of our stables earlier in the week. And I think you just read me 12-1, 2A Per Me. And that's a knocking good each way bet for my money. Finished second behind The Storyteller at Punchestown in the Grade 3 earlier in the month. And led home, there were 4 Chickenstown horses, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. And he finished at the front of them. Sean Flanagan rides 2A Per Me rather than his old mate, Snow Falcon. And Mead was, well, you know what he's like, Noel Mead. He didn't give too much away, but he had a chance to be negative about the horse and wasn't. So 2A Per Me each way, particularly you read out 12-1. I wouldn't mind nicking a bit of that, finishing the money.
Off, lads, we're going to come on to Weatherby, 245 Yorkshire Hurdle. It's over 3 miles of Grade 2. And Mike Vince, sadly we don't have Time Hill. Lisnagar Oscar, Stairs Hurdle, 2-1. Roxana, 3-1. Next Destination, who hasn't run for 920 days and switched 2 Paul Nichols from Willie Mullins, is a 4-1 shot. Copperhead, 7-1. Holdstone, 8-1. Dekar, Dearland Day for County Derry trainer Noel Kelly, 12-1, and it's 14-1 bar the rest. Mike Vince, Lisnagar Oscar.
I can't have him. I think it was a total. Let's just remember that he chased home another rag in second. I mean, it was just a total freak result. It wasn't. Everybody will remember the race because Paisley Park failed to fire at Cheltenham, and Lisnagar Oscar, fair play, took advantage of that. But there was another rag in second, and all the favourites had probably gone out the night before and had too much, because it really was a total, one of the great cuckoo results of recent Cheltenhams. The one that I like here is Copperhead. Good enough to win the Reynoldstown over fences at Ascot last February, and so therefore is clearly a very useful horse. And of course the Tizzards didn't have any sort of time of it at Cheltenham at all back in March. And I'm just looking at Cobhead and I'm thinking of Thistlecrack and thinking, well, is this another Thistlecrack? Is this a horse that is as versatile over fences and also over the smaller obstacles? I mean, he fell behind Champ in the RSA. He'll stay all day. I just think he might be chucked in here. It might be the forgotten horse, because let's remember also the RSA. The other horse that fell was a horse called Easy Game. But he had every chance 3 out in the RSA, fell at the last. And I think anything bordering on a double-figure price might just be former Audley Q lads at the Help Yourself desk.
I thought mother-in-law was going to get you were going to get another dig at the mother-in-law there, Mike, when you were talking about Lisnagar Oscar. Ronan Groome, want to ask you about the Irish challenger, because I thought he was interesting. He went over last year. He went off a sharp price favoured for, I think it was a novice at Warwick. Interesting they're bringing him over again, and thoughts on him and the race as a whole.
Yeah, Jack, he's interesting. The race you're talking about, I think was the Leamington at Warwick, and he was only just beaten by Mossy Fen. If you actually watched the race before that, he won a Catterick. I remember he won like literally the easiest winner you'd probably ever see a Catterick, just completely on the bridle. Yeah, I think he's that type of horse. He always travels well into the race. I'm not sure he'll be good enough on Saturday, Barry, to be honest. I think he's around 10-1. You need the trip to try and to bring out probably the best in, and I'm not sure it will. He's plenty to find. The one I thought was the most interesting was Roxana. In around. She
disappointed last year, didn't she? I mean, she looked like she was going to make into a stayer's horse, especially after the season before when she finished. I think it was second. It was a 3-go finish at the line. If the cap fits, Apples, Jane, and Roxana. She disappointed me last year.
Yeah, you say she's disappointing, but she never got a chance to go back to 3 miles, and that's just the point I was just going to make with her, because I saw her as a potential stayers hurdle horse last year, but they never ran her over 3 miles. They kept her at 2.5. I think she ran second to Top Notch at Aintree at the start of the season. She ran second to Somerville Boy and the Rel Keel, and she was a bit disappointed then in what was probably a very good renewal of the Mayor's Hurdle at Cheltenham. Her 2 runs over 3 miles is that second, as he talked about in the Grade 1 at Aintree. I think it was the Stayers Hurdle there. She was just beaten by If the Cap Fits and Apples J. That was a brilliant race. And before that, she was second in the grade with novices at Aintree the year before, where Santini beat her. They're her only runs of 3 miles, both in Grade 1s, both very close seconds. So she's her third ever start at 3 miles, and her only 2 previous before that were seconds in Grade 1s. She gets loads of weight off Lisnagar Oscar, who has a penalty to carry as well for winning the Grade 1, I believe, and she obviously gets the Mayor's allowance. I thought she'd probably just be about favourite here. She's fit and ready to go, and you'd believe that Dan Skelton would have her ready to roll. This is probably her her best chance of the season over 3 miles, and a good starting point for her. I thought she'd probably just be about favourite, so I think she's around the 3-1 mark. That'd probably do for me.
We're going to come on, lads, to the second Grade 2, and of course the feature at Weatherby on Saturday, which is the Charlie Hall Chase over 3 miles. Lads, surname. He's 13 pounds clear on the ratings. I suppose he's relatively unexposed, still going up in trip. He had an entry, obviously, at Ascot. He takes his chance here. Mike, thoughts on the race? And I know you caught up with Kim Bailey. We're going to have a listen to that in a couple of moments. But thoughts on the race first?
I think it's a very good race. It's the first thing to say. It's probably John Joe Sanderson, the clerk of the course, was saying he thinks it's the best renewal in his time, because he thought if Surname turned up, all the others would stay at home, and if Surname didn't turn up, it would be a weak race. Surname's never won left-handed, and I have to say I'm not sure quite about 3 miles for Surname. I think his better form might be at less than that, particularly because a 3 miles around Weatherby is going to be quick, because there's plenty of speed on. In fact, let's hear, shall we, Barry, what Kim Bailey had to say.
I have a very high opinion of Vinndication, and really and truly I need to find out whether my Vinndication is vindicated. Forward to the future, we've got to look forward to where we go from tomorrow or Saturday onwards. And a bold showing from him would obviously take him away from handicaps for the future, and a bad run from him would put him back in handicaps. And, the easy option probably would have gone to Ascot and run carrying top weight. But I hope this horse is ready to step up now, and now is the time to go and do it, especially when Surname probably doesn't have the world's greatest record going left-handed. Well, I have to say, I have to go in there saying I think he's potentially vulnerable. And it's a really difficult one to suggest that a horse rated that far ahead of us is vulnerable. But I mean, he had a hard race last season. It took him a while to get over it. He's never won left-handed, as far as I know. And this is a really competitive race. And I think it's, as John just said earlier on, I think it's the most competitive Charlie Hall I've seen for a very long time. And there's a load of good horses in there. It's going to be a good horse to win the race. And he's going to have to be at his best to win this race, I think. And we're going to give him his best shot to try and beat him. The horse is fit. The horses in the yard are running very, very well. If he's ever going to be good enough to go and take on the top class, it has to be on Saturday.
The Weatherby track, I mean, it's always been a very fair track. Is it a track that will suit? And the fact that field is that size, might it also ensure that if Surname's got any stamina limitations, they're exposed?
I think that's absolutely right in what you say. And it's going to be run at a fast gallop. It'll be a very competitive race from the moment they set sail to the moment they finish. And if any stamina limitations will be shown by anybody, quite honestly.
And will you also find out whether you can go? I mean, obviously you talked about the Gold Cup, but you'd have to go further than 3 miles. Well, presumably you don't think that's a problem.
No, I don't. And obviously I've made an entry in the Hennessy for him. So, so much depends on what we see on Saturday as to where we go. I mean, he'll stay. I'm not worried about him not staying. It's really a question whether he's good enough. And that's really what it's all about for me. And, I'm a big fan of Weatherby. It's a very lucky race course for me. I like going there. I like racing horses there. And it's a very fair course.
And his jumping's always been his forte, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, it certainly has been it's been something he's been very good at, and I'm not going to go any further than that because you're taking big risk on going any further. But I hope that'll be all positive.
I think Vinndication is probably going to beat him. I'm very sweet on him, and the reason I'm sweet on him is that he ran the mother and father of a cracker, lumping top weight in the Optima at Cheltenham before the burglars arrived late on. The conditional won it, and the conditional was getting about 6.5 stone off Vinndication. He jumps for fun. He'd done everything right beforehand. I think he might just be a Gold Cup horse for Kim Bailey. He's going to have to go very close if he is to be a Gold Cup horse in this. And Surname is better right-handed. Surname, I think, will be a good thing for the King George, but I think here he might just be found out.
See, that's the thing, Mike, about Vinndication. I was a massive fan. He was almost my nap of day one at Cheltenham last year. I think he was 5-1. And just with the pace in here, my thoughts on Vinndication was he maybe should be lining up in the race beforehand. I'm not sure he's as good a jumper of a fence as some people might think. I mean, he put in an awful lot. I think that's what let him down last year at Cheltenham, was when they were going lickety-split, that he was slow over his fences. Obviously, his best performance was in the Sodexo, who's Gold Cup, which we'll be covering this year's renewal now. But I just think that I wouldn't be at all surprised if he ended up back over hurdles this year. Thomas, did you thoughts on this one?
Look, I always thought Surname's rating was a bit over the top always, and probably the bubble burst the last time as well. He was going to be well bet when he fell. I like Vinndication as well. He lumped around top weight in a good handicap around Cheltenham. He has the size and the stature to improve again, and he could come into this what is a very hot Gold Cup bubble that's starting already. But he could start creeping in. I think he'll beat Surname. Just too many questions now, and as Mike says, he's better going the other way around. So just on that, just if you look down at, like, there's not a whole lot. Like, Sam Spinner was winning 3 and 4 runner races. Granny was winning well, but when he comes into this kind of depth of a race, I think he'll be found out. Definitely Red. He runs his race. He's a good solid handicapper. But no, the one that has that has the potential to improve is the Kim Bailey horse, and I probably side with him as well.
Ronan, would you side with the lads, or do you think he has jumping issues, Vinndication?
I think he might. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think he might get away with it here. I don't think this is. If you take Surname out, I don't think this is the strongest renewal, as Mike was kind of alluding to there, that the clerk of the course was saying. The Surname, I don't have a huge, in short, I don't have a huge view on having a bet on the race, but I think Surname, I just really like the play from Nichols to just have a go here. And instead of initially he wanted to go to Darren Royal, and then he decided, well, maybe we'll go back to Ascot for the Sodexo race where he can carry top weight. And then he decided, let's just have a go left-handed, 3 miles. Look, if he gets beat, fair enough, but we'll find out a lot for the rest of the season. And it just makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he'd probably have an easier option at Ascot, or if Darren Royal would suit him going right-handed. But, he mightn't learn as much about the horse. They've decided, right, let's go left-handed, let's go 3 miles, and we can find it out all in one run. And if he goes and wins, then, everything opens up for him then for the season. So I'll be watching Surname probably with a view to the rest of the season. But as regards to having a race, I think Vinndication, you've all made a decent case for him so far. He's the kind of less exposed horse that could emerge as a top class kind of staying chaser this season. I think he's well founded in the market now, though, around 3-1. Sam Spinner, he's interesting, but he was only a novice last year. His season was cut short, so he's probably a lot to prove now coming into open company. And I don't think the rest are all that great, to be honest. If the ground got anyway soft, you could probably make a case for Bally Optic, but I don't think it is going to be soft. I think it's good to soft there now. So in short, I'll be looking at Surname with regards to the rest of the season, but I don't think it's a betting race for me.
Fair enough. It's not a betting race for me either, but I just think that Surname might get Vindications jumping under pressure. And I don't think there's anything else in the race, so probably would just about side with him. But 2-1 there at the moment, I probably won't be backing him at that sort of price. Lads, coming on to the race that Vinndication won last year, the Sodexo Gold Cup. It's obviously 3 miles. It's a grade 3. Mike, we'll come to you on this.
It's a horrible race, isn't it? It really is. I've looked at this and I've looked at it, and it's one of those I could sit up all night and come up with about 14 different answers. There's negatives for quite a few. When I actually think that a horse at the age of 12 that's just had a wind-up called Regal Encore's got a serious chance of winning it, it gives you some idea as to how I weigh this up. I wouldn't rule out Vitor. Aidan Coleman's picked up the ride because obviously Daryl Jacobs at Weatherby, and a yard that doesn't always get the credit it deserves, Comanche Red for Tom Cannon, riding for Chris Gordon as well, and Walk in the Mill. I mean, he's a different horse around Liverpool. And now I look at the top weight Black Courton, and I'm thinking, and I'm still wondering whether Nichols opted out of even thought of running Surname at Ascot, having seen what Frodon did, humping enormous weights around Cheltenham last week. I can't rule Black Courton out either. And look, there's old Mike Bite at the age of 11. He's in this on 11 stone 3. If he had a going day, he'd have these for breakfast. I will chance the top weight, Black Courton, but it is a horrible race. He's had a wind up. He's been very consistent. Bryony, of course, gets on really well, and the horse will jump around Ascot very well. But as I say, I do it with only because you've more or less forced my hand. He was second to Mr. Malarkey in what used to be the Racing Post Chase. He's now something else. I can't remember what it is now. At Kempton in February. We've not seen him since. Well stuffed by Vinndication in the race last year. Did finish third. Black Courton with about as much reluctance as I would be to go and sit and watch the two teams at the bottom of the Football League play for 3 hours. Yeah, if I have to, I will. Black Courton.
Yeah, Mike, it's a bit of a process of elimination, isn't it? That was actually my selection as well. You made a case, obviously, has had the wind up. Ran it last year, but Bryony Frost, she's a good relationship with the horse. Thomas, did you come down on anything here? It's a weak race.
Yeah, be honest, I didn't put too much time into it, but the two that I came was Black Curtain, and the one down the bottom I think is interesting with Richard Johnson with doing 10-3. Look, he can do them weights anyway, but he rides Watmore for Henry Daly. He was fourth in the novice handicap chase. The one Imperial Aura, Galvin was second in it. He's franked that form in Cheltenham last week. If you go back to the run before that, I think it was Kempton, and he was beaten a length and a half. He was fourth again. Black Curtain was second. I think he's £2 better off for a length and a half. So weigh that up. It is not going to be a whole lot in it. So if you fancy Black Curtain, you have to kind of fancy Watmore. So that's what I kind of came down on. So yeah, them two against the field really.
Thomas Coyle, when we have you, nap and MB the weekend.
My nap of the weekend is Saturday. It's a Philip Reynolds horse. It's not presenting Percy, but Paranoid runs in the handicap chase. He's better now handicapped over fences than he is over hurdles. He won first time out for Gordon Elliott in Punchestown. Davy Russell rode him. He's in, it looks a weak affair for the 3 mile handicap chase in Down Royal. Jack Kennedy rides 10-13, lovely weight. He's probably going to be short, I'd imagine, but look, a winner's a winner, and I think he'll win well. My next best is also Saturday, Golden Jewel, a horse that I know very well in Eddie Cawley's. Ran a couple of weeks ago, probably needed the run. It was probably a bit far from maybe 2.5 mile, but a good strong 2 mile race is what he wants, and this is what he's going to get here. He was second in the Dublin Racing Festival, just nailed on the line, and he didn't get a good passage. If you actually look, he was 11th place jumping the last hurdle. He got to the front, but Charles Byrne's horse nailed him on the line. He's had his nice prep with Punchestown. Chris gets on with him well. He's won them 3 times. He has 10-9 minus Chris's 3, 10-6. He's the right side of the handicap. He think it's a big handicap, and imagine them big bookies are going to pay 4 and 5, and I'd imagine he's going to be a nice price. So he's my next best at an each way price for that big handicap on Saturday in Down Royal.
He's been banging on the door a while, hasn't he, Golden Jewel?
Yeah, look, he is a very good horse, and he deserves to win one big handicap over hurdles before he goes chasing. And whatever he does over hurdles, he's 127 at the minute. He probably will end up being a 130 plus horse. But whatever he does, he when he goes over fence wise, he could be in it.
We're sticking with naps and MBs. My nap of the weekend is Kid Commando. 7-2 lads in the Sodexo Handicap Hurdle at Ascot. Look at it, he promised a lot as a bumper horse. He was an 18-length winner at Fontwell first time up last year. Mixed it in the best bumper, Soaring Glory we saw. He finished second to him. He's come out and won. Yeah, look at the trainer. As I said, Anthony Honeyball. He's trained three from the last 8 runners. So he's in hot form. I did actually just a plug for what's the name of the book? Mark Howard's book. Interesting comments just about Kid Commando, that he is the trainer's horse to follow for the year. He's quite keen on him, and he is in here off 136, which I think could be very, very fair. I don't think he's going to go off anything like 7-2. I think it is a weak race. There's only 10 runners in it, and I might cut up more. And MB lads comes tomorrow. Louis Vag Pouch 8-1. I think he's a good each way bet. He ran a huge race actually in the Burn Group Plate at the festival. Looked like he was going to be banging the shake up, and made a mistake at the last, was hampered as well. So he stayed on very well. I think he's dropped 5 pounds and he's had a prep run again. Like Anthony Honeyball, Philip Kirby's horses are going very well. So they're my two kind of steering away from the big races this week. Mike Vince, you always have something hidden in a handicap. I place my trust in you.
I'm not going down the handicap. I was listening to Thomas and thinking, well, the dogs were barking that each way one, weren't they? They obviously fancy it. I will nap Vindication. I actually think that Vindication is one of the most exciting steeplechasers I've seen for a while. If he's going to be a Gold Cup course, he's got to stuff Surname and the rest tomorrow on Saturday. I think there's every chance he'll do that. And a next best in a novice race at Ascot on Saturday, due off at the wonderful time of 2:32. Can say that forwards or backwards, it comes up the same. A horse that went into my notebook at Warwick called Captain Morgs for Nicky Henderson. and I think you'll find that that's probably an ideal chance for him to record his first win at the second attempt over hurdles. So Captain Morgs 232 Ascot, next best.
Captain Morgs. How Ronan Groome misses his Captain Morgans in the Palace in Navan since lockdown has taken us all. Ronan Groome, you're napping your MB.
I don't know, it's kind of a while since I had Captain Morgan's now, with a bit of Coke. My nap is a Coca-Cola I meant there as well, not the... my nap is Chris's Dream. I think Chris's Dream is could even go off favourite, to be honest, in the main race at the Royal Saturday, the Ladbrokes Champion Chase. I think he's been literally laid out for that race all since the end of last season. Robbie Power comes back to ride him, whereas Delta Work is worth taking on his run. I think Chris's Dream is definitely worth getting with on his first run. I think that's the time to get him. My next best runs tomorrow at Down Royal. Envoi PRG runs in the 3:35 handicap chase for Liz Doyle and in the green and gold of JP McManus. He only had 3 runs over fences, nothing doing last season, but this is his first start in a handicap chase. It'll be obviously very interesting giving the connections if there is money for him. I think he's around 12-1 now, but you only have to really go back to his hurdles form. He won a maiden hurdle at Tremor coming off a big long break. And if you go back to his point form, he beat a horse he's second to a horse called Chantry House in his point-to-point, his first point-to-point at Tattenham Tatterstalls Farm. So I just think there's a lot more there. He's £10 lower over fences than he is over hurdles. So any sort of money for Envoi PRG at Down Royal tomorrow will make him very interesting on his handicap chase debut.
Brilliant, Ronan Groome. Well, listen, lads, that concludes episode 2 for the season of the Champ.ie podcast on the ultimate road to Cheltenham. And listen, I can't wait for this weekend. Just a bit of news actually on the 8 points to play tipping challenge. It will be coming back next week. We thought we'd get it up and running for this week, but it will be back next week, and we'll have more details on next week's show, along with some more guests, and the lads I'm sure will be back as well. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, make sure and do so. You can get this podcast on all channels: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Ronan Groome likes his Apple, and make sure and subscribe, and you'll get us every Thursday from now until the end of this season. Thanks for listening, and best of luck this weekend. Let us know in the comments your selections as well, and we'll see you next week.